There you are. Well, good morning from one of the pastards. It's Bruce Martin today, and Roger. Oh, there he is.
Oh, we're having fun with technology today.
Roger's like a little jack in the box there.
Our Spotify for Podcasters has a brand new framework that works glitchlessly with everything. Not so much. Don't you love when technology changes?
I love when they update. They told me, like, I got a bunch of notifications yesterday. They said, this domain has been moved to Squarespace. This domain. So apparently all of my Google domains have now been moved to Squarespace. I don't know what that means to me.
You're screwed.
I just sent a note back going, thank you.
That's doomage.
I don't know. I probably don't have a website up and running anywhere right now.
We don't even exist.
I'm not even on the interweb.
Bruce has been transferred. This is AI. Right now, what you're observing, we are not real people.
This is what the computer thinks we would be talking about if we were here, but
it's
we're not.
Amazingly good.
I remember wearing that outfit months ago, and it just sort of, that's the one
AI creates.
They put you in an outfit that you've been in before.
No problem with me, because this is the same outfit I wear most days.
Well, that's true. You've only got 3 outfits total, so you've got a 1 in 3 chance.
AI has no trouble with me.
In the same shirt. Well, actually, that caused a little bit of a glitch in the system. They thought they would have more to choose from.
Right there.
It has to have a draw pool of at least 5, and it just kept shorting out 3. 3. Same shirt.
3 T-shirts.
Same shirt.
Gosh.
Same shirt.
Never changes shorts.
I've never seen anything like that. It's not even, in most countries, that's not possible. But here we are. So I do have a hard stop at 30 minutes today, whether Spotify Anchor makes me or not.
Okay, because you've got something important at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, I've got to do a repair at a rental property. Now, this is a great story.
Oh, let me guess what rental property that might be.
Give it a guess.
The house next door to mine.
Nope.
Oh, no.
It's the Plainview house, Raj. It's the Plainview house. And this is what makes the story great. So I went over there yesterday to repair the commode, which is pretty simple repairs. You know, it should be simple. Because it was
nothing related to plumbing at that house is simple.
It was running all the time and making creaking noises and all that. So I'm like, well, it's just going to need a new float system, and I'll just replace all the internals, because it's that commode. We put it in like 2010. It's 14 years old.
Okay. Yep.
So go to Lowe's, get all the internals, come back, and just taking the float system out, you have to turn off the water, disconnect the water hose. Then there's a little nut on the bottom of that thing, and that nut had apparently over 14 years welded itself to the fixture.
Oh, you love those.
Oh, yeah. So what should have been a 15-minute fix took 2 hours. Now, after those 2 hours were done, turn the water back on, no leaks. Okay, that was huge. Flush the toilet, everything worked. I'm like, wow, this is great. Put the top back on. I'm like, I'm just so awesome. And I texted our renters, hey, mission accomplished, done. I get a text back. They weren't there yet. They were coming in at 12:30. So I get a text back about 12:30. I should have told you it was the bathroom in the master bedroom.
Oh, no.
I replaced a float in the second bathroom. It took forever. That was completely unnecessary.
Oh, my God.
So now I get to go back today to go through hopefully a much simpler process with a new float. No, you're right. It's never.
In fact, this one will be irremovable.
Yeah.
It will.
I'll end up breaking.
You have to break something. Exactly.
I'm going to break the tank. It's going to be water everywhere. It's not going to be.
What you should do right now is just go to Lowe's and buy a whole new commode. It'll be easier. It'll be faster. I guarantee you.
Well, I will take a Klonopin before I get started. Just something to keep the anxiety level at bay. Now, I told Ron, I said, this is how I know I'm in such a good place right now, just mentally, emotionally. When I got the text and I had done all that work and I saw it, I literally just started laughing. That's a good sign if I'm laughing, because normally I'd be like,
yes.
But I was not. I was like, well, all right, well, we'll go back again tomorrow and start again, because there's nothing I like more than plumbing.
just hugging a commode.
Oh,
That's what I
yeah.
heard someone say.
And that's what
You know, you gotta hug. You have to work on you have to hug one of those things.
You have to hug the bowl. I mean,
Right.
it's fine if you're hugging the tank, but no, you got it. Your
No,
head's
you've gotta-
right down.
Right, you've got to hug the bowl.
It'd be a great time to be throwing up because
You're already in the proper
you're
position.
in position. Well, and you're trying to get things under there like wrenches, which is just impossible. And I had forgotten to bring my tools, so I was going to work.
Oh, there's that.
I was going to work with the tools that my renter had at the house. Well, it turned out all I had to work with was a pair of pliers that was about 4 inches tall. I've never seen such a small pair. I was like, these are more like tweezers. But I did manage by opening the lock to get it around that little nut. And
You went to a repair job and forgot to bring your tools.
Right, it was a disaster, Faye.
This was not a banner day for.
But that commode that didn't need fixed is now even more fixed than it was before, and I won't have to fix it later because I've got a whole new float in that bad boy.
Did you bring the tools today?
I did. I brought all
your
my
own tools. Good.
Yeah. Oh, and I went ahead and brought PVC, the glue, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to tear out walls, plumbing. It's going to be bad.
Sheetrock tools. I've got
it all, actually.
Grouting.
It's going to take all day. I'll probably cancel all my appointments this afternoon.
Bruce ends up doing a complete bathroom model.
I'm hugging a commode.
Well, once I replaced the commode, I had to replace the floor tile, and then it didn't match the vanity, so I had to replace the vanity.
Yeah. So, this is
and this will be $8,000 later with that particular rental property.
Yeah, it's just not good.
It's a money pit.
It's a money pit. It's a thing. It's a thing that happens. But so back from Patagonia, had a tremendous week there.
What's a Patagonia?
Patagonia that we hiked in is on the southernmost southern tip of Chile, which is how they say it in Spanish. We call it Chile, but I have to say Chile so I don't spell it with an I, Chile, like the.
Nobody would do that. That's ridiculous.
No one would put that on their website. But when you look at it on a map, it's like you're only 600 miles from Antarctica. You're just like right there on the tip. You're like, and when we flew into Punta Arenas, they've actually got a big thing called Antarctic Air. And I'm like, okay, I've got to take a picture of that because you just don't see that everywhere.
Didn't even know that existed.
Didn't know that existed. For $6,000, they will fly you to the Antarctica just to say you've been on the continent. Because pretty sure there's not like a thing there. I don't even know that the airport has a concession stand. I mean, you're flying.
I guess somebody's bucket list could be, I want to step foot on Antarctica and then leave.
I had one person on this trip that has been on every single continent now. So she called her husband about doing the flight to Antarctica. He's like, if you really, 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 really want to. But, ideally you would want to plan, I don't know, a penguin sighting, a seal tour. I mean, what do you do in Antarctica?
And what's the best time of year to go?
Summer, I would think, would be the best time. This is fall going
summer
into
for
winter.
them, right?
Would be, so when we were down there, it was fall.
Summer for them would be
winter.
December.
Yeah. So January would be a great time to go.
Right.
January, February, probably big go-ahead times. Anyway.
Oh my gosh.
Tremendous trip. It's furthest south that I've ever been. I mean, literally, I had 4. You'll love this. This is plane, trains, and automobiles. I had 4 flights coming back home. I had a 3-hour. It started with a 10-minute taxi ride to a 3-hour bus ride to 4 different flights. It took 27 hours before I got back to our home in Blunsville.
Because Chile is longer than you think it is.
It's longer than the United States.
Is wide.
It's crazy. I mean, it's like, anyway, good times. So going again in November, if anyone out there listening in Adventure World wants to go, November will be like going into summer there. So it's
but the most fascinating thing you told me was, of all the places you've been, this was the most beautiful?
Absolutely the most beautiful. And I was surprised by it because people have said for years the most beautiful place on earth. But I'm like, they're going to say
everybody has their the most
place.
Beautiful.
And I've hiked a lot in Peru and it's just gorgeous. And so, but I went there and it's like, Roger, there's so many cathedrals and incredible like summits. Like there's this thing called the Horns, which is this like 2 giant rock outcroppings at 10,000 feet that are black and tan. So they're black up to this point, and then they go tan from that point on, almost like the horns on cattle. But I realized there's about 50 of those in Patagonia that you see, these amazing formations. And I realized in the United States, any one of those formations would become a national park. They would build a national park around that formation.
Gotcha.
And I'm like, you see 100. I mean, it's crazy. And the colors were vivid. So it's
The leaf
yellows,
colors,
the leaf colors. So the yellows and oranges and reds. And then you've got, we watched on glaciers. So you're literally the first time I've ever seen glaciers. Imagine a 100-foot tall wave of ice slowly moving into a lake. And it's just calving off little icebergs, which is hilarious. These little icebergs just floating everywhere. We got pictures of that. But the coolest thing was when we did the W trek. Look it up. It's a cool trek. But in the middle of the W, you go into the French Valley and you get a chance to see the French Glacier, which is over on this side of you. And we saw like no less than 7 avalanches. They had so much snow the week before. Now, had we traveled the week before, our group would have been in a totally different situation. They had crazy snow and rain, and at that altitude it was all snow, but they had so much snow it's all avalanching out. So you would hear this. We were hiking along, we were looking over there, and we hear this pop pop pop, almost like 3 pops, like shotgun blasts, and then you would hear roar. Of course, the first time we don't know what it is. We're just looking around like our horses headed our way, and then we figured out that's an avalanche. And so the first one no one caught on film because we're like, but the second time we're getting cameras ready and getting them on video. So I got a couple of videos of just these avalanches just tumbling down.
Well, I've read where, and it could be the pop, 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 they're trying to create, they fire at the, and they want it to avalanche because they don't want that buildup. They want a controlled avalanche rather than an unexpected.
Yeah. On this one, it wouldn't be that because this is not you couldn't ski in this area.
Right.
Because it's a sheer cliff. Right. Well, I mean, I suppose you could. You would just die poorly at the end of that. You'd have one black diamond jump, and then it's all over. But it's just a beautiful country. The other thing that's very interesting is Chile is so much more sophisticated, much more infrastructure, a lot more wealth in Chile than there was in Peru, which was just interesting.
Yeah, okay.
So because I didn't really know what to expect. But the most interesting hotel I've ever stayed at called Altiplanico. It's a hotel that's built into the side of a hill on 3 levels, but the levels are 1, 2, 3. It's in the side of the hill. So your roof is sod. The walls, like on the front and on around are layers of sod. So you can just see that thick layers of sod. And the entire hotel is concrete infrastructure. Floor is concrete. The beds in the room are concrete. Like met with mattresses on. The vanity that's in there is concrete. Everything's built around concrete, and then they just add some wood for decoration.
Right.
And this the most cool thing that the ladies loved because there was 10 ladies and 2 guys on this trip. So me and Ryan were holding up the testosterone end of things, but the ladies loved this. So every bathroom, they had hot pipes running under the floor, so the bathroom's floors were heated. And they had your towels on little racks that were little radiator pipes. So your towel was like, whoo, 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 whoo. So, I mean, it was just the most interesting, cool, fun place to stay. So, great trip. I mean, it really was. And nothing bad happened because I've never done this trek. I'm self-guiding a group of people. My guide, Mark Booth, couldn't go.
Yeah.
Because of their family situation. So I am out there on my own thinking, all right, Lord, please, we need good weather. We need no one to fall and break something. And
we need someone on the trip who's not taking drugs.
Well, I did have a little girl. So this is the widest age range I had from 23 to 73.
Okay.
Now, my variable was the 73-year-old because I'm like,
you got a little worry in your mind about that 73.
I'm like, 73, we're hiking some 50 miles and you're going through rugged terrain and uphill, down. I mean, I'm like, how's she going to do? And she ran circles around all of us. She was the Energizer Bunny. I mean, it was unbelievable. I've never seen someone in that good a shape at 73. In fact, on the third day when we were watching the French Glacier, because it was spitting rain and a little bit, I mean, just not bad, but The wind in Patagonia, I mean, that's why my cheeks are still red. I mean, it's all wind burn. The wind is brutal, 50 mile an hour gusts. We had one lady got knocked over by one of the gusts.
And it wasn't the 73-year-old.
No, literally knocked over by one of the wind gusts, which was funny in its own way. But once you're seeing the French Glacier, so that's called the French Lookout. Well, some 3 miles further up the valley, and I mean up, is the Britannica Lookout. So this is the English Lookout, Britannica. And she goes, I want to go there. I'm like, no, you don't. The weather doesn't look good. It's a little sketchy right now, and we've already hiked, 8 miles. And we got to go still another 8 miles back to the refuge.
Right,
5 or so back to the refuge. And no, I really want to see it. I mean, I'm like, okay. So sent the rest of the group on because I had several people that were experienced backpackers. One of them was actually a guide. I didn't know that until this trip. She guides trips all over the United States.
Oh,
and does some foreign trips too. So I said, hey, can you take the rest of the group back because we'll call her Dorothy. Dorothy wants to go to Britannica. So 3 hours later, we get to Britannica Point and back. It was some of the hardest hiking I've done to get to that space.
Okay.
And you see some more interesting rock formations. Was it worth it? People kept asking me that. And I'm like, for 3 hours more of hard hiking, it was not. Dorothy and I did a 17-mile day that day. I was so tired. We didn't even get in till we got in at 7:15. Dinner started at 7. And by the way, the dinners and the breakfast and all that at these places are crazy. So it's not like, this is glant packing. First night, we've got this giant thing of mashed potatoes with a huge hunk of salmon, baked salmon on top with a vinaigrette-like thing on it and the little drops of pretty things and
wine
and beer and cocktails. It was just nuts. I'm like, this is cool. I love Patagonia.
I will come here again.
Yeah, well, yeah. And we slept in tents, and the first 2 nights, the tents are like 6 feet off the ground on these platforms to keep you away from the puma. It's always helpful. No one wants to get mauled in the middle of the night.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. Right? It's more,
that's not true.
It's not going to happen.
No mauling.
And then the next 2 nights, we were in tents. One of them was on like a pallet system. We were like a wooden pallet, a wooden platform. That was cool. And then last night, we're on the ground with the mice, which you could tell because they had a lot of repair places in the tent. Those mice had come in the tent before. So I was telling everyone, hey, don't have any food in your tent. If you got any food, you need to throw that into the refugio. And
unless you want a nighttime visitor.
So all was well. Great, fantastic trip. Looking forward to November. And the commode repair that follows this. So how's it going in your world, Raj?
Well, I didn't see last week the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life, or I didn't, I just had an ordinary.
You probably visited mom and dad 3 times though.
I did visit mom and dad.
Good.
And we it was a good week.
Good. I'm for our listeners I found out later I'm getting credit for being places that I've never been. Apparently one of my sisters told mom and dad that I was visiting and it didn't work out, or Roger, and it didn't work out because I had another thing that came up, so I couldn't visit.
But they now remember.
But Bruce, it was so funny. Someone asked, one of the siblings asked, was it you? Okay. So wasn't it great to see Bruce this week? And they're like, yes, it was so good. And
they just lit up.
But I did not. But
no, I know. I was talking to him
for it. This is awesome. But I am going up Sunday to visit mom and dad and to do some landscaping at the old homestead.
Old homestead. Yes.
Although they had so many homesteads in the last few years, I don't know that any of them qualify. The old homestead to me really is probably the closest thing is the house up there on Timber Ridge.
Which I never lived in.
That was not the homestead for you. Now let's go back to 1060 Shallowford Road for Rob.
That would be me.
That was the old homestead.
But I got married right before they moved, I think, into the.
You did, because I was only
homestead.
in there. I was only in there for 6 months.
Ah.
And I remember letting Marlena through the window upstairs one time in that 6-month window. If mom and dad are listening, which is highly unlikely, I'm sorry. It did happen, though.
We could spend all kinds of time apologizing. Think of all the stories we haven't told mom and dad
Should we do that this weekend? Is this the weekend we should just go ahead and just throw it all out there?
Well, since their memories are much sketchier now,
true.
This is the ideal time to do it. Yeah. They'll probably just chuckle. Oh, we had no idea. I'll let you start with your stories because they're scarier than mine. They know about a few of mine.
Well, I was thinking the other day about some of yours because you were the one that taught me to drive fast. And I thought about the speeds at which you drove a 1968 Pontiac Catalina and a 1970 Oldsmobile Toronado. Renee's. And I thought about the suspension and the tires and all that in those days and all the things we didn't have. And I'm like, we could have died so poorly, so quickly.
No,
it's unbelievable.
It's why I have a firm belief in angels, in God.
Oh, so that was what
I should have been dead.
I read that this morning. I think I'm going to do a little blog post on it because someone's asked me to write an article about what I do for like my Born to Be Wild stuff and the backpacking 101 in particular. And I'm going to talk about the creation story that I love where God creates Adam and Eve and he doesn't put them in a house. Thank God. He puts them in the great outdoors.
Yes.
He puts them in the outdoors. And so this idea that, we backpacking takes you sort of back to that creation moment where you realize I don't have to have all the stuff that I thought I have to really enjoy my life. So if you go out there for a week, now the backpacking 101 is just an overnighter, which is enough for some people to scare them to death.
Right.
Just one night.
It's all the outdoors I need. I'm going back to four walls.
But I was reading today, and I'm going to include this in my post, because I'm reading now in Mark. I finished Matthew, so I'm in Mark, and I'm in that second chapter, 1-2 of Mark. And it's interesting to talk about that Jesus went to the desert to be tempted by the devil. And it says he was out there with the wild animals, and the angels attended to him. That was all together. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the reasons that I just I'm not afraid when I'm out there. I'm like, because I do believe in angels. Mm-hmm. They're real. And that they not only attended him in the Garden of Gethsemane before he went to the cross, Scripture records that, but in this moment of temptation in the wilderness, where he's out there in desolate areas with the wild animals, God's there. And it's like, it's back to that whole thing. You can never be out of the presence of God. So I'm going to include that in there, this whole thing for people that have fears about going into the great outdoors. I'm like, well, remember, God's out there with us. So,
well, even that idea, the angel, a messenger, a sent one, is so to think. I don't know if I thought about it quite that way, which is it's a reflection of God's care.
Yes,
because all through the pages of the Bible, angels show up. They either have a message.
Yep.
But sometimes it's food. Sometimes it's advice or counsel. Or sometimes just comfort.
And sometimes they're doing battle.
Oh, protection, yes.
It's a very interesting thing when you read in Daniel some of the stuff.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, okay, that's going on. That's a real thing.
So you've got these created beings that are just doing the work of God. They're doing the thing, and he'll just, but to think about, I mean, again, we have the idea of a guardian angel when that term isn't so much used, but the reality that God would use angelic beings to guide, protect, that's a reality.
But God does reference each child having an angel that sees the face of God every day.
Okay.
So it's a very interesting thing. And I think that's probably where the guardian angel.
What do you think that means? Sees the face? Yeah.
I don't know. It's a little bit like don't dismiss children, and certainly don't abuse children. Don't, if you cause one of these little ones to sin, be better, or to stumble, it'd be better than a millstone was hung about your neck, because they have an angel that sees the face of God every day. It's you almost get the idea that he's like, the angel goes to God and goes, hey, did you see what happened to Bill down there? I think we need to do something.
Right? You do not want to mess with an angel.
Can I do what I do? Can I do what I do? Because I think something needs to be done. Bill's going through it. I'm gonna come in with a little angelic.
Well, and you see angels being used for judgment, and that's also
and Lucifer was an angel, and if you read the ancient book of Job, it would talk about when the angels were gathered before God, and Lucifer too, and Satan as well. God asked him, "What have you been doing?" It's like they're reporting in. It's just very interesting how I want to say this for me. It's interesting how poorly formed my theology of angels is. In fact, I can't believe we're talking about it today since I know so little But the reality that there are angels that protect and that provide and that care for us is comforting. It's a manifestation of the presence of God in a very tangible way.
And the other thing it represents, that it reminds, and I picked this up, not surprisingly, in the last week, is God will talk about the angels rejoicing.
Yes.
Over a sinner who repents. In other words, angels are a reminder that we're inside a larger world.
Yes.
That it's one of the things we have a hard time with angels, because angels don't fit. We a world that with humans you touch that I can, but we're inside a larger world, and in that larger world there are spiritual beings that see, that speak, that do the work of God, and it's this reminder that even the things that we're doing that nobody sees.
Right.
That's something Tim Keller brought up in a book I'm reading is, well, the angels see. The spiritual beings, even Satan.
Yeah.
Satan, I've noticed Job.
Yeah.
And part of the point was we're bringing glory to God.
In the heavenly places.
In the heavenly, rejoicing to God, grief to God, there are other observers who give glory to God on the basis of what they're, even that phrase, interesting, the angels long to look into redemption. They long this idea that God, a God who would die for these humans, and they don't quite, because that isn't their story.
Yeah.
A God who died for angels.
Yep.
But he dies for these human beings he creates, and they long to look into this, I think it says. And anyway, it's just a reminder that we are in a supernatural world. So this idea that there are beings, that there are, which we're fascinated by in the movie world,
angels in the outfield, Miracle on 34th Street, It's a Wonderful Life.
Well, Angels Unawares, people that show up, even whether it's Hallmark or other movies, where someone and you get the idea. There was the Whitney Houston movie, or the other ones where
Denzel Washington. That's probably my favorite angel.
Or
The Preacher's Wife.
It's a Wonderful Life.
Yep.
Well, those are fascinating ideas that are tied to a reality that actually angels can show up unawares. You could be, the Bible says.
Right. You could be entertaining
hosting.
Angels. So, human form, angels in human form is one thing. I wonder if angels can show up in other forms as well, whether that's birds that are bringing food to Elijah, on the backside of the desert. Because I told this story recently to one of my clients. It was just, I told her on this trip because I had a dog lover on this trip. Like, she has 5 dogs. She just loves dogs. I said, my most interesting story about a dog was also a story about angels in my mind. So this is years ago when we lived in Chattanooga. Marlene and I would walk 3.5 miles in this loop around the park, the Chickamauga Battlefield Park. But we got out there real late one time. So it was like we got out at 7, but I think we can beat darkness and we can get all the way around. And we had heard, some reports that there had been some animals that had been sacrificed in the woods around there. Just kind of some weird, occult kind of stuff going on. And I had that at the back of my mind anyway. Exactly. So, we're walking and it starts getting dark quicker than I thought. And twilight's falling. And then we've got it's a 1 mile straight road across got 2 giant fields on both sides to get back to the car. And I'm picking up my pace. I'm not trying to freak Marlene out, but I'm picking up my pace. And I feel, all I can tell you is I feel this ominous feeling that we're being watched. Just a very ominous feeling. Just that makes your hair stand up. And so I'm feeling this fear. And I'm like, got to get in my mind. I'm like, we got to get back to the car. And Marlene can tell that I'm picking up my pace. And all of a sudden there's these 2 huge black dogs that come running across the field straight at us from one side. And I was like, I'm freaked out. I'm like, because they're running right at us. Now, like you said, we've done this many, many, many times. I mean, multiple times a week we do. Never seen dogs out there. These 2 dogs, and they're running right at us. So I'm preparing now for combat. This is combat. I'm going to take on 2 dogs. So, and those dogs come in, they run, and then they just settle in behind us and just walk behind us. And they walk behind us and they follow us all the way to our car. And we get into our car, 1990 Honda Accord, red 4-door, remember it. We get into our car and they sit there. They sit on the ground like two sentinels. And we pulled off. And I remember looking at them in the rearview mirror, and they were just sitting there, just like that. We never saw them ever again. Had never seen them before. And I am convinced there was something angelic going on, and we could have been in danger and don't know it. I mean, Here's the thing that I realized on the trail, because only one person saw a puma, and they were excited that they saw, but everyone else was bummed. And I said, well, none of us have seen a puma. I guarantee you, they've seen us. In other words, because how many times have we been in danger and we don't even know it? How many times have we needed an angel and don't know it? How many times has Spotify stopped?
No, it's still going.
Oh, is it still going? So all that to say, this podcast was a podcast about a lot of different things, including the reality of angels. What rhymes with angels that we could do a ditty about?
Bangles.
That's the same thing I thought. I'm like, it's not quite those.
Not quite.
Not the Bangels. That would not be a great band name. Walk like an Egyptian with the Bangels. That's great.
Manic Monday.
Hey, did you know who wrote Manic Monday? I just saw this the other day. It's not the Bangels.
They sang it, but somebody...
They sang it. It was written
probably by Dolly Parton.
It was probably by Dolly Parton. I think that it was like by Elton John or something.
Oh, okay.
Which was interesting, but the Bangles sang it. So I'm like,
right.
All right. Well,
but the Bangles are not angels.
That was great. That's why people listen to this podcast,
it's time to wrap around.
Because we say such smart things.